newsroom. No white smoke from the Vatican yet. Wasn't really expected, not during the first round of voting at the Vatican. A two-thirds majority required. No white smoke expected, in fact, from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel on day one. The wheeling and dealing may be going on behind closed doors, but that won't stop our panel from giving us the guided tour of how it's all happening and which person is best suited to take up the mantle from Benedict XVI, which cardinal will win, which way the Catholic Church is going, a church that's growing in the developing world, but in decline here in Europe, and critics argue sorely in need of reforms. Today in the France 24 debate, we are looking at the next pope. With us from Rome, France 24's Douglas Herbert, who is following it all from St. Peter's Square. And here in the studio, Father Vincent Cabanac of the Augustinians of the Assumption Order, also a journalist and co-author of Walking in the Light, 30 Days with Pope John Paul II. Reporter Ulrike Koltermann, author of Popes in Palestine in German.
In German.
In German, in 2000 it was written. The relationship between the Vatican and the Palestinians from 1947 to 97. From Fort Wayne, Indiana, Matthew Bunson, Senior Fellow at the St. Paul's Center for Bibical Theology. Thank you for joining us here in the debate, the France 24 debate, where you can always join the conversation, and you have this Tuesday on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24Debate. Let's begin in Rome with Douglas Herbert. No black smoke yet, Doug.
A lot of people would say the possibility of us seeing white smoke tonight is about the same as Benedict XVI coming out of retirement and saying, I'm not really tired after all. It would be absolutely unprecedented. No one, no Vatican observer, no pundit, not even the dark horses are saying that there's going to be white smoke. The fact is, 115 cardinals, a lot of people see this first vote tonight as a sort of primary. That in itself is a very sort of loose description because, in a sense, this isn't an election. It's not a campaign. No one's been really, there's no official list of candidates. The average in the modern era, François, for these conclaves has been about 3 to 4 days, and that's what a lot of people are betting on. But once again, all guesswork and speculation.
All right. So would you agree with that? The first round is more sort of a seeing things out of a sort of elimination process?
Not elimination, but expression of the natural, vote of each cardinal, because they don't no candidates, but each one can have his own candidates and he write his name. So it will be for the first time the results of the expression, the first expression of the vote of all the cardinals. So it will be maybe not the division, but the repartition of the vote of the different cardinals. So for sure we will not have the white smoke.
And we've said it before, Matthew Bunson, we're facing an unprecedented situation, what with the outgoing Pope. I don't know yet if he, by the way, is Benedict the former Pope at this point?
Yes, the title that he has been given, at least for the moment, is Pope Emeritus. That seems to be the title that he requested, and the Vatican has actually approved, at least for now, subject to possible change by the next Pope. It's interesting to talk about the first ballot. In fact, a Pope has not been elected on the first ballot, I think, since 1572 in the election of Gregory XV. So this has not happened for a very long time, and I agree with everyone else that it's unlikely that it will take place tonight. The first ballot serves a couple of important purposes, though. It first helps the cardinals to get into the mode of voting. They have the sense then that they are underway, and psychologically I think that's a significant act on their part. The other thing is that it gives them a sense of where they are in terms of the contenders, in terms of what are traditionally called the papabili. What are their strengths? Are candidates coming in as strong as perhaps they thought they might be, or are there some surprising candidates? If we think in 2005, for example, we know from what we've heard from leaks and other things that on the first ballot, Pope Benedict XVI received probably as many as 45 to 47 votes, which established him right from the start, the Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, right from the start as the heavy favorite. And of course, he went on to win the very next day.
Of course, being the heavy favorite, Ulrike Koltermann, doesn't necessarily mean you win. And again, we have this unprecedented situation where you have the outgoing Pope who's still around.
Yeah, that's something that has never happened before. But it's also clear that he won't participate, and no one expects him
Not
to...
even behind the scenes?
No, I think his decision was taken that he really wants to leave the scene empty for his successor, and he's not going to interfere. But there's also this very famous saying that who goes in as a pope comes out as a cardinal. So there are lots of media favorites, but that doesn't mean anything, because a concern of the media is not necessarily the same concern as a Catholic Church. So I think the first round will help to eliminate some and clearly define those who are papabile, the real candidates of the Church and not of the media.
All right, we don't know how many rounds it will take, but what we do know is that after the white smoke will come another suspenseful decision. Charlene Pele explains.
Once elected, the Pope will confront many matters, from sex abuse scandals to questionable Vatican finances. But first, he will have to answer two questions.
Do you accept your canonical election as pontiff? By which name will you be known?
The newly elected Pope is free to choose the name he wants, but the task is not as easy as it seems, for the name traditionally sends clues about one's approach to leading the Roman Catholic Church. Although many have chosen an apostle's name in recent times, Joseph Ratzinger took the name Benedict XVI, first to recall the spirit of Benedict XV, but also an inspiration of Saint Benedict, the founder of monastic life in the Catholic Church.
In the case of John Paul, the choice was pretty simple. He merged the names of two previous popes, John and Paul. The same applied for John Paul II. But for Benedict, it was a pretty obvious choice. We all know his love for Europe, his fondness for Saint Benedict, and for the Benedictines.
Many options are available, but there is one name that the future Pope will avoid.
The only name they never pick is Peter, as a form of respect to Saint Peter, but also because some legends claim a pope with the name of Peter would be a sign of the end of the history of pontiffs. So maybe they don't use it to avoid bad luck.
Candidates who think they have a chance should have a name in mind. Once the pontiff is chosen, there will only be a 1-hour break before he is asked to accept and give his name. Only then will the senior cardinal deacon read out the Habemus Papam to the world.
All right, so they won't be choosing the name Peter. Father Cabanac, are cardinals superstitious?
No. It's a respect. They don't use Peter, but they use a special name as Pius. So Pius is like Peter. So we have already Pius XII, the last one. I don't know if this
Because it's not a question of bad luck then.
No. It depends. You choose this name because, like your journalist expressed, the meaning for the candidate. So we can't imagine which name we will choose. Depends on what candidates will be elected, and he will choose his name in relation with him.
All right, we're looking at we're getting live images of St. Peter's Square, which is absolutely packed, Douglas Herbert, as we await to whether or not the white smoke or black smoke comes out. And we've talked about how it's unprecedented. There was the abdication of Benedict XVI. I guess it's also given the pilgrims the time to converge on Rome.
No, absolutely, but I have to underscore the fact the circumstances of this conclave are sort of like nothing we've seen in 600 years, as we said at the outset. A living pope sitting in his retirement home, and he's in Castel Gandolfo right now, perhaps watching, perhaps not watching the proceedings. And you do have this sense of real curiosity about the process this time around. There's always obviously pilgrims flocking to St. Peter's Square to see. But what's interesting about the conclave about this time around, So there's a sense that the 115 cardinals, even though they have gone through a week of congregations, debates, discussions, 10 in all, in which they talked about all aspects of spiritual life, the direction they think the church should go in, a chance for cardinals to really show what their personalities are and what type of, perhaps, governor they would be of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics. Everyone sort of is still waiting to see what the outcome will be. These cardinals are divided. This is an open field. There's no sense that there's one single name that stands out and that is absolutely has the odds-on chances of emerging as the winner at this point. And that's what's the interesting thing here. An open field, an open conclave going in.
And as we said, everything is done so that the process can move along briskly. Matthew Bunson, this white smoke, black smoke business all harks back, yes, I believe, to the 13th century.
Yeah, the first time that we know they actually burned ballots was probably in 1417. But the conclave itself was established in 1274 as a result of a very famous papal election that ended up ultimately in Viterbo, in which it took the cardinals 3 years to settle on a candidate, and that came about only as a result of the rather frustrated people of the city tearing the roof off of the palace and reducing, according to historians, the cardinals to bread and water. So the current conclave system was established by the subsequent pope, who was elected by those cardinals, who realized they needed to find some sort of a long-term solution to give the cardinals encouragement, and that's where the conclave system comes from. And of course, the name itself, cum clavis, means quite literally with a key, because traditionally the cardinals are locked into the conclave. I absolutely agree with my colleague that the circumstances here are truly extraordinary. If we're looking for the closest historical precedent, I would look to 1978. The second conclave in October, following the really shocking death, the unexpected death after a mere month of Pope John Paul I. Things were extremely unsettled, in a way as they are today, as the cardinals went into the conclave in October. And the result, of course, was the election of Pope John Paul II, which was entirely unexpected, which makes me wonder if this time around, exactly as in 1978, a major surprise could be awaiting all of us when the announcement is made of Habemus Papam.
So on the one hand, Ulrike Koltermann, you've got the unprecedented fact that the Pope abdicates. On the other, though, the different possible candidates, and I know that no one's officially a candidate when it comes to being Pope, have time to sort of prepare themselves for the outcome. Do you think we're in for a long ride? Do you think it's going to take a lot of rounds?
Well, I think 2 or 3 rounds, most probably, because everyone has an interest also to have a new Pope. Easter is coming up. So it's very important that the new Pope has time enough to...
So no more than 3, you're saying?
I would say by Thursday we have a new Pope.
By Thursday we have a new Pope. Do you agree?
I think we will wait longer. The big difference, and from the announcement of the retirement of Benedict XVI, it was on February 11th, till the beginning of the conclave is 1 month. We are on the 12th of March. So it's longer than before, because it was, for all the conclave, it was only 2 weeks. So all the cardinals have time to think about. They have now, last week, the congregation, they have discussion among them. So it will be good for them. But the big difference that we are not in the same situation, like, for example, the last conclave, where we have one personality. Cardinal Ratzinger was the dean of the cardinals. He was presiding the funeral of John Paul II, presiding all the congregation, presiding the last Mass. So it was one big personality. Now we don't have, for example, the cardinal who presides the congregation, if we preside the Mass this morning, is not in the congregation. It's not in the conclave. It's someone else. So they have many people who can grow in the conclave, and they have to choose this. And another thing, it will be maybe, I don't know, but for the first time, it will be good enough to elect non-European cardinal to become a pope.
All right, perhaps a non-European cardinal. Many of those taking part in the conclave, by the way, are also new to this game, like the primate of the Philippines, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle.
I am still studying how to be a cardinal, how to be a shepherd in Manila. And I'm going to attend to one of the most important duties of being a cardinal. I admit, I do not know. I am still studying what a cardinal should be doing when they vote for the papacy. I am still new at this.
All right, still new at this, at 55 years of age. He, Matthew Bunson, is one of those outsiders that people are talking about, so the first non-European. Would he fit the profile?
Yes. He would. I think the general consensus is that Cardinal Tagle is still a little too young. There are also, from among the members of the College of Cardinals, who are somewhat concerned about some of Cardinal Tagle's, shall we say, theological inclinations. He belongs to a theological school of history that has a slightly different viewpoint, certainly the interpretation of the Second Vatican Council from Pope Benedict XVI. So that may be something they weigh in too. I'm really struck, though, by the fact that, in 2005 and certainly in 1978, there was discussion about some other cardinals from outside of Europe. There was, of course, Francis Arinze in 2005, who was considered papabile. But as we've talked here, the focus was very much on Joseph Ratzinger. This time around, not only is the field open, but it is remarkable, the number of candidates who are being talked about as papabile who are from way beyond Europe. We think of Cardinal Tagle. I think also of Cardinal Ranjit of Sri Lanka. And then, of course, there are several candidates from Latin America and Africa, Peter Turkson, Robert Sarra, and then, of course, Cardinal Marc Ouellet of Quebec. So not only is this wide open, but I think it does demonstrate a kind of almost tidal shift in where the college is coming from, and also the opportunities for someone from elsewhere around the world other than Europe to be elected pope.
All right, and when we come back, we're going to look into who those candidates might be. Some, by the way, have questions or reservations about the whole process, like these French in St. Peter's Square. All right, we'll go to that segment. We'll go to that segment after the break. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.